Hello, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to EUROPARC webinar. I've seen we have already around 30 participants with us today. I will ask you to please turn on your camera so we can give it a personal touch and we can see each other's face. I will ask you also to keep yourself muted during the next hour, but you will be asked to make your own questions after our participants intervene. Without taking any longer, I would just like to briefly introduce you to our speakers today and give you an overview of the EUROPARC Federation. So I'll share with you my screen. Okay.
Hello.
Hello, that's exactly what we want to avoid. We want to avoid any kind of sound, so please mute yourself. I will mute everyone, but try to not turn on your microphone. I will give you a brief explanation on how it works. So I'll share with you my screen. I think you can see my screen now. How does it work, Zoom? Just a brief introduction. You have two viewing modes for the discussion. You can either see the face of us all, or you can see just the person that is presenting. So you can choose which is the view mode that you prefer. Here on the upper corner on speaker view or gallery view. So you can decide which one you prefer. Then it's really important that you keep your camera, your camera can be on, but you keep your microphone off. This is the way to turn on and off your camera. This is how it will look like when we are presenting. Please mute yourself. Okay. The other important part is to ask a question. So instead of turning your microphone on straight away, please click where it says participants and you'll see the full list of participants. And then I would like you to click on raise hand. With this, I will be able to see which persons would like to make a question. Okay? So participants list, raise hand. And don't forget your mute and stop video controls. Okay. If you have any doubt, you can also find me on the participants list and click twice on my name and it will open a chat box with me. So feel free, if you have any doubt, just make me a question directly. Okay. So before we start, let me give you a brief introduction about the EUROPARC Federation. My name is Barbara, and I'm the Communications and Marketing Manager of the EUROPARC Federation. And for those who don't know, the Federation exists since the 70s. We are the largest network of protected areas in Europe, and we gather members from over 40 countries. And our members themselves are the ones responsible for the management of national parks, regional and nature parks, marine protected areas, urban parks, and even Natura 2000 sites. So actually we represent around 25% of the Natura 2000 sites within our membership. This means that we work to empower you and protected area professionals to better do their job. And for that, we support parks protecting nature by bringing people together. In fact, international cooperation was always the core activity of the EUROPARC Federation. And that's exactly why we have launched last year a series of webinars. So we can connect people from across seas. And today we have a special guest that doesn't even come from Europe, but we'll get there in a minute. So just to give you an overview, EUROPARC has several offices. So I'm currently speaking to you from our Regensburg headquarters in southern Germany, but we have also a technical office in Barcelona, and we have a technical office in Brussels, where we work directly with members of the European Commission and the European Parliament. Apart from that, we have members in 40 countries, but in some specific countries, we have created sections, EUROPARC sections, that represent the interests of our members in those regions. Okay, this is just to give you an overview of the outreach. Okay. Then EUROPARC webinars, we organized one per month, and all the recordings and all the presentations are available on our website. The same will happen with the webinar of today. Apart from that, what we also do, we create different tools for parks and for protected area professionals. And those tools are also available in our website. So if you click on europarc.org and go to our Knowledge Hub, you'll find a huge list of topics where you can find case studies, articles, resources, toolkits. So do surf our website to find more interesting information for your work. And also, if you have a case study that you would like to submit, you are very welcome. And we always need case studies. We always need to know what's going on and the best practices that you are doing in your protected area. Apart from the Knowledge Hub, we also provide tools and training, especially training. EUROPARC webinars are one of those trainings, but we have an annual gathering of members, free to our members to participate, and we have different capacity building events. One that we are really preparing currently, it's the Life in Natura 2000 in Due, and next year we will provide training on the areas of communications and community engagement. So do keep tuned with our news, and maybe you can be one of the trainees of our next training seminar. Without thinking any longer, let me introduce you to the topic of today. It's a topic that really excites me, connecting people and nature, and how can we use technology to bring people closer. We have been talking in several workshops and several conferences, the need to connect with people beyond their brains, right? And if we think in the past years, scientific information and nature conservation activities have been mainly a discipline of scientists, right? But nowadays, more and more often, protected areas have social professionals as well that understand the needs of people and can adapt their messages to the wider audience who doesn't have a scientific background. So exactly the question is changing behavior. And if we want people to change behavior, we need to start with ourselves, perhaps. So we cannot think that people will change their behavior towards more environmental responsible behaviors if we ourselves in protected areas authorities haven't changed yet. So this webinar, it's a call for you to change, or a call for you to rethink the way you do your communications. So how are we reaching out to people? What really matters to reach out to people? And what tools are available? We know that we have been using a lot of factual information that speaks mainly to our left side of the brain, which is great. However, if we want to make a difference on a person's life, we need to speak also to the right side of the brain. And that means the emotional side, the artistic, the creative, the fictional side of ourselves. And this exists in all of us. So if we are convening a message of nature protection, we can no longer keep telling them the facts and the problems. We need to provide them the opportunity to experience, so that they can have a personal experience with nature, and then we can shape the way they think. If we don't connect with the emotional side, then all our efforts on the left side will be in vain. So the secret, and especially in this era where we have access to so much technology, the essence is how can we convey logical and factual information while providing emotional experiences to people, to our audiences. One very interesting tool that was launched recently by RARE, the Center for Behavior and the Environment, was this toolkit. And it's a practical toolkit with several case studies, and they especially divide the need for behavior change in 3 main categories. This toolkit gives you an idea of how can I better vinculate my messages. And basically, they resume it in 15 main points. So first, we need to motivate the change. We need then to socialize the change at a group level. And then we need to ease the change. And by easing the change means that we need to make it easier and easier for people to adopt pro-environmental behavior attitudes. For example, if when you're buying your Ryanair ticket, it would be by default, please provide 50 cents for my CO2 compensation, we would probably have better results. But if this is an option that a person needs to choose, then people will not do it. So what this means is we need to make it easy for people to access our information and to do the change of behavior that we want to do. In the toolkit, you will find examples for each one of these topics. But today, our special guests will also illustrate some of these points. So we will hear Patrick Ribeiro, and I will show you and I introduce you, Patrick, in a minute. Patrick will show us how they are making easier for protected areas and for nature conservation projects to communicate. Whilst our invited guests from Mexico, Roberto, he will tell us how they are motivating the change at a personal level, providing experience to people through virtual reality, but how also they are socializing the change and how they are increasing the connection within the society, providing opportunities for schools and for other groups, minority groups, to engage with Restore Coral. Having said that, this will be our speakers today. I'm really proud that they have accepted our invitation. We will hear first Patrick Ribeiro. He will tell us about Explorerland, a storytelling tool for conservation projects. And then we will hear Roberto Cerda, who will join us from Portugal, I guess, although he is from Mexico. And he will tell us about his project and about the big problem of whitening coral reefs in Mexico currently happening. So without taking any longer, I will stop sharing my screen. And I will ask Patrick to share his screen. Let me just firstly introduce you. And let me tell you that we will do a round of questions right after Patrick makes his presentation. So keep in mind your questions, because then you will be asked to intervene, to introduce yourself, and to make your own questions. So Patrick is one of the founders of Open Forests. And he has a large, long years of expertise in drone imagery and image processing. Patrick, can you tell us all about Open Forest and how did it started?
Yeah, hello. Yeah, first of all, thank you for the invitation and for the opportunity we have to share our experiences using information tools to bridge geographical distances to bring people closer to sustainable forests and conservation projects. Maybe just a few words about the company very quickly. So the company was founded 8 years ago. We are based in Germany, but do act globally, and our team members, which are 8 currently, are spread all over Europe. And taking our slogan to understand what the essence is of what we do is that we want to empower people to make more sustainable, resilient, biodiverse, transparent, and social forest projects, and that using new technologies. So the challenges we identified even before creating the company, but in particular during our work, are mainly 3. So what we understood within our experience with forest, agroforestry, and conservation projects all around the world is that, first of all, there's a very difficult access to capital. So we got to know a lot of good projects which had a hard time to get to financial supporters. But ironically, on the other side, there are persons and groups which are interested in investing in projects and supporting projects, and they are having a hard time finding those projects. So there's a problem of visibility for the projects, and at the same time of some methods or process to find projects which are looking for financial support. The second point, which we understood is quite problematic for many projects, is an inefficient information system. And mainly looking at forestry projects, we saw that a part of external factors like law enforcement or economic limitations, among others, one important internal factor for the failure of some projects is that a robust information system is missing, which leads to management friction and in some cases even to bad decisions causing the project to fail. So just to give you an example, we had the possibility to get to know huge and complex projects which were managing their data using just decentralized and partially redundant Excel sheets. So something or a situation which very likely is going wrong at some point. And the third point, which we understood that is a big problem for many projects, and that is the subject today, is the problem of communicating the project in a transparent way. So first of all, in case of investment projects, reforestation projects, due to a bad communication and intransparent communication, there were lots of causes or situations of fraud, which caused also the impact investing communities to lose some trust in those green projects. So it's essential that projects invest in a transparent communication to build up trust with everyone, with the stakeholders and the public in general. So how do we address these issues? So as I started saying, we build up on new technologies, and we developed a broad stack of technologies, starting with satellite and drone imagery for the visualization, also analysis of project areas over time. We developed mobile data collection apps to gather monitoring data, as well as multimedia material like photos and videos on the ground. And we do set up comprehensive forest information systems where all this data is stored and available in one centralized web-based management tool. And finally, in order to share that data with stakeholders and to present it to the public, we develop web-based interactive maps. So coming back to the issues I just mentioned, I will now focus on the transparent communication issue and eventually end up proposing a solution which brings projects investors more efficiently together. So looking at the typical communication between a project and the stakeholders, obviously we have always the organization in between, which is responsible for the project. And although in the ideal case, if the organization has a full knowledge about what is happening within the project, the information passed over to the stakeholders is only a fraction of what is known about the project. Now, in some cases, this might be intentional because there's no desire for the responsible organization to be fully transparent about what is happening in the project. But in many cases, this might be more related to the fact that the organizations are just missing the necessary tools to go as transparent as possible. So in many cases, this leads to a demand of third-party certifications, which are important, but however, they are costly and deliver an indirect and partial image of the reality. So in both cases, what we have is a biased information transfer, and our goal is to go a step further and pursue maximum transparency where stakeholders and the public can learn about the project in an unbiased way as possible. So how do we, or how did we try to follow this goal in the last few years? We started with using drones to generate high-resolution aerial imagery. Because showing projects from above, which in the past was a rarity, but is becoming more and more popular and accessible, brings a value to the project, which is undeniable high. Whether drone-based imagery or images coming from new powerful satellite systems, in both cases we have two advantages, which are a high level of detail and the possibility to create up-to-date images, giving a clear insight into the reality on the ground. So our first drone a few years ago was a multicopter, which you can see in this image. And the first application we did with this are 360 degrees interactive aerial images. In the following example, which is a reforestation project in Germany, we did an image and came back 4 years later to do another image. And that's just what you saw, the change of the forest or the forest growing over those 4 years. You will see now, I will jump back 4 years. So you will see the initial state when the first image was taken. And in a few seconds, you will see again the view of, or the transition of the forest over 4 years. Now, the panoramas are only fixed watchtower, virtual watchtowers, and give just a visual impression of the landscape surrounding the spot where the panorama was done. However, we wanted to go a step further and map entire landscapes in high resolution and also to extract quantitative information. If possible, to mute children.
Okay, please mute yourself. Thank you. Not yet. Wait. Okay, Patrick, unmute yourself, please. Okay, it's really important that you keep your microphone off, otherwise it will be bad for every participant. Okay, could you unmute yourself already?
Okay, I was searching the button. Okay, so this next step to go into,
Okay. Yes, I'm trying to mute everyone, but I don't know what's going on. A person is still connecting. Okay. So please continue, Patrick. It's
okay.
now solved.
No problem. Always nice to hear children.
Exactly.
Really? I'm not sure. I think it's Mohammed Skolit who's unmuting all the time.
Okay. I will have to remove you, Mohammed. Okay. It's Mohammed. I will remove Mohammed. Mohammed, I'm very sorry, but I will have to remove you.
Hello.
Yes, please mute yourself. Okay, please continue, Patrick.
Okay, so the next step we went for was to go from multicopters, which have a limited range, and we passed on to fixed wing drones, which have a much higher endurance and are capable to map up to a few thousands of hectares a day. So in the image you just see is one example of one of the biggest drones we have. And coming over to showing you the results, I would like to start showing you an image of 3 reforestation sites of a client's project, which is located in a remote area. And so there are no free high-resolution satellite images available. And the layer you see in the background is the best image available for that region. So even if the resolution would be better, you never know exactly when the images are produced. So these are 2 negative aspects of available imagery. So in this project specifically, we mapped more than 10,000 of hectares of the project area and produced high resolution photo maps or orthomosaics as they are called. So I will switch to the next image and you will see the difference when bringing in the drone imagery. And you see the level of detail is just very high, and you see exactly what is happening on the ground. More interestingly is that we went back to the same site and did another mapping about 12 months later. And I will now switch to the next image, and what you will see is how the forest is growing in that reforestation site. I hope you see that in the presentation. Yeah, sorry, a bit out of. So you see how powerful this drone imageries are to build up transparency towards whoever is seeing these images. And that's also the next point, because once we have this wonderful material, it becomes only valuable if accessible to the public. So the next step for us was to integrate all of these elements I just presented into one centralized interactive web map. So the next video shows one of these maps we built up for a client, where you will see the drone image, the high resolution drone image. So we are just zooming in, and we have implemented different elements here. So first of all, we have also an aerial panorama, which will be opened in the video, which gives this bird perspective to the visitor to explore the surroundings of that area. In this case, specifically, what you see is an illegal gold mine in the middle of the Borneo forest. But we integrated also other multimedia elements like photo galleries, which allow the user to, or the project owner to tell the story from the ground. And finally, also the possibility to show the reforestation areas. And in this example specifically, we have the monitoring data shown in real time.
Okay, thank you very much, Patrick. Who are your clients, and how are they using the platform?
We have different clients. So we have, let me just switch back this one. We do have smaller NGOs. We work also with bigger institutional organizations doing development work all over the planet. We have big forestry associations, even some academic institutions. So everyone who has some type of relation with stakeholders and has these necessity and the urge to show what is happening in the project, be it because they have sponsors, be it because they have investors which supported the project, or just because they want to show what is happening on the ground and how their project is impacting in a positive way what is happening on the ground. So the type of client is really a very broad spectrum of of user types, so to say. Barbara, I think you're muted. Sorry.
Yes, I'm muted. Yes, you're right. Would you show us a specific example of a project, Patrick, so we can have an idea?
Yeah, so maybe just to pass on showing a project, one very important thing is that we saw that organizations using these technologies, they gained a lot of recognition and built up trust with their stakeholders. So the result of this assessment was that we had to develop a platform which is available for everyone to use. And this is the Explorer.land. So just shortly, this is an online centralized map-based project presentation platform, which allows not only the presentation of the platform on a map with interactive tools, such as those as I just presented, but being centralized, it allows projects to be available to the world to be found. And in particular, if you have buyers of commodities, if you have investors or sponsors, they will be able to find your project. So I will jump to showing an example of such a project. Let me just share a new screen if possible. Where is it? Yeah. So what you see now is the live the live platform, explorer.land. And to start with, everyone searching for projects, be it because they want to sponsor them or invest in them, they can use different search criteria. And once they have found a project, they can open the project by clicking on it, and the platform will take the user to the site where the project is taking place. And it will show the project on the map with all its components. So in this case, we have a reforestation project in mangroves in Myanmar. So you see the reforestation areas, you see different sites which are of importance, and you can explore them all interactively just by clicking on them. But more importantly, you have also the possibility to produce posts, which are also geo-referenced. So if I want to know the latest news, I will see with which site this latest communication is related to. And so in this way, and just touching really the basics of the platform, the projects have the possibility to present the project in a very transparent way. In this case specifically, you see also that this organization introduced a high resolution and update drone imagery, which is from last February, which shows the present situation of the landscape where the project is taking place. So I think I would stop here in case there are some specific questions about how this platform works in more detail.
Okay, thank you very much, Patrick. Maybe you can stop sharing your screen so we can go to the mode where we can see our faces. Yep. Exactly. I invite all the participants to turn on your cameras as well, if you would like to. And well, thank you very much, Patrick. This was really interesting, your project, from drone imagery to a platform that helps protected areas and nature conservation projects to better communicate. Who has one question to start with? You remember how was the method to raise the hand? You can go on participants, on the participants list, and then there will be an icon for you to raise your hand. Carol, you, please. The floor is yours. Just unmute yourself. Thank you. And please introduce yourself first. Tell us your name and then your question and where you're working and your interests.
My name's Carol Hume. I work for Scottish Natural Heritage. I'm based up in northern Scotland, and I work within the Marine Coastal team. Thank you very much, Patrick. That was really interesting. My question is about, you've got the transparency of your information there. One of the projects that I'm working on at the moment is to try and gather information about sea caves around Scotland, and we're starting to work with sea kayakers and local communities to gather that information. But one of the sticking points is how we manage that data internally within our organization, and also making sure that is accessible online. But there's quite a sticking point about the systems that we have to work with internally and how we make that work externally as well, data protection, privacy issues and things like that. So I was wondering if there's anything that you can say in terms of any advice for that, or whether we just have to work through it at the pace that the organisation obviously takes.
Can you just reformulate your question? Because so the problem, what the specific problem is within the organisation? So
there's, I suppose what we have within our organisation is a way to manage our own data. There's data that's generated. We're currently upgrading to a digital asset management system. So for photographs and videos, we've got a system that will work internally, but it's being able to share that externally and trusting systems externally and where that data sits. I was interested that the Explorer platform that you've got there, does that mean it's open to everybody to see all the projects, or is it one organisation that can see the projects that are just associated with them?
Yeah, well, so to start with, the Explorer is a presentation platform. So there's a backend where you can manage all your presentation, but it is, well, at least not now, it's not a project management system. For that, we do develop other software dedicated to that task. So what will happen is that if you want to share content with just certain persons, we will have a login for dedicated content, so that selected persons will be able to access to your data, be it images on the map, be it whatever you want to show on the map and within the content panel. But currently, it is a public presentation tool.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I answered your question there.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of internal issues that we have to work through, but a lot of the work that we are doing now is relating to citizen science and data that is being collected by communities, and part of our ethos is to help share data that we have and also help collect and collate it. So it's just, yeah, it's quite a current thing for us to be working through, but we haven't got there yet in terms of having a working web platform that manages that with our internal data management systems as well.
Yeah. So in principle, we do have the knowledge to develop it. We are specialized more in forest and agroforestry management systems really on the team level. But I just would propose that we talk later on to really understand what are your needs, what type of data you are using, and then see what can be done in the collaboration with us.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Carol, for your question. We have Maria Aurindo, who has a question. Maria, there is not a problem that you don't have a camera. You can just turn on your audio and introduce yourself. Okay.
Okay, that was my ear.
That was hard.
Are you listening?
Yes, we can hear you, Maria. Please.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm Maria Aurindo. I'm a voluntary worker at the Associação Plantar uma Árvore in Portugal. I've just saw your map of our areas, and I was wondering, what do we need to do to have this evolution of our areas visible? Do we have to contact the open forest? Or is it something that automatically is going to be shown?
So first of all, the whole management of what you show on your map is done by the project team itself. So it's independent of our team.
Okay.
There's some small hacks because we're still in the development phase, but in principle, you take care of everything. Now, there's no automatic change of the landscape. We are planning into introducing base layers in the future, which will have an update of 3 months, more or less. So that's the plan. But what you can do, and by the way, since I talk quite regularly also with the leaders of your association, if you have access to a small drone and you do a very quick, like 5 minutes map of your areas, you can just upload it, and it will be possible then in the future also to move through time on the map and see how the landscape changes.
Okay, just great.
Talking about reforestation, you will see, as the example I just show, how the trees that you planted 3 years ago are now creating the first canopy and so on. So that all of that is possible, and
Great.
it can be made like.
Thanks. Congratulations for the platform.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Maria. Please, I will ask you to mute yourself again. Meanwhile, is there any question? Anyone else would like to make a question? We have time for one last question. We have Dan. Dan, please turn on your audio and introduce yourself.
Hello, my name's Dan Story. I work for South Pole. We do a lot of, we'll work on a lot of emission reductions projects around the world. Yeah, congratulations, Patrick. Really cool
Thank you.
presentation and platform and everything. Yeah, my question was basically on, so it seems like you combine satellite and drone imagery, but you use for the high-res stuff drone imagery principally. I was wondering why you'd made that decision. Like, is it cheaper? Is it better quality? Is it easier to do?
Sorry, I did not understand the last sentence.
Basically, wondering why you chose. You seem to use drone imagery more than satellite imagery for visualizing the projects, for visualizing the project areas. And I was wondering why you'd taken that decision.
Well, it depends on what the project wants to show. First of all, if the important thing is showing detail, and with the drone imagery, you can, so the last example I showed you, the image has a resolution of 3 centimeters per pixel. So you're able to see the hand-sized seedlings on the ground if you want to. So that's something you will only manage with drones, and they had the possibility to do the mapping. But technically, there's no difference if we upload a drone image or a satellite image if the satellite image is available. So if the project has access to high resolution and, let's say, nice satellites and updated satellite images, the project can also upload it. So there is no there's no limitation on that level. It's really open to the project to decide what the project wants to upload.
Cool, great. Could I ask like one quick following question? Do you have any idea about like the associated costs for like drones versus satellite imagery?
Well, it really depends. I mean, drone imagery is getting cheaper and cheaper. You can buy end user and consumer drones, and what we are doing, we are teaching our clients to how to use it, and there are some online platforms which do the processing even cost-free. We can also do it. So that is really getting cheaper and cheaper. And on the satellite level, you have really very expensive material, but also there you have a development which is going so fast that the prices will fall in the future for always higher resolution imagery. So it really depends. So I would say for a few hundreds or 1,000 hectares, you can go from a few €100 mapping the whole stuff up to €20,000 if you want to have very good and high resolution and maybe even multispectral imagery, which you would buy then from some satellite provider.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you, Dan, for your questions, and thank you, Patrick. So
sorry.
Go, Patrick.
Just one last, so if you're really interested in knowing more, and I will be available, me and my colleagues, I would just show you the link where you can look at in the future. I don't know if you see my screen.
Not yet.
So you, okay. Just one second, where is it now? Okay.
Okay.
So if you go to explore.openforest.com, you will have a broader explanation of what the platform can do, and you will have our contact data there. And you're welcome to contact us to know more. And we are also offering a 2-month free of charge usage. So take the opportunity to test how this platform will help your organization to present your projects. And that's it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Patrick. Meanwhile, we'll have a further opportunity to discuss and to address any question to Patrick in the end of the second presentation. So now I will invite Roberto. Roberto, we cannot see your face. We can just see. Okay, here is Roberto. Roberto is calling us directly from Lisbon Airport. He's a very busy activist. We came across a couple of years ago in Germany, and I was absolutely in love with their project. That's why we invited Roberto to come. Roberto is the founder of Restore Coral, and he's action-oriented society leader, let's say. Roberto, can you introduce us Restore Coral? And if you need to unmute yourself. And
yeah, I think, hold on.
just I have the computer as well. Anyway, I think
now it's good. Now it's good. Now you can speak.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, how are you? I'm gonna put the screen. I'm gonna share my.
Introduce the project.
No, still not working. Wait. Here. Okay.
Hold on 1 second.
Try to share your screen.
You can listen to me.
Yes. But we cannot see your screen yet.
I'm gonna share it now.
Okay. Perfect.
From another window. Got it?
Yes.
All righty. Okay, guys, thank you for the patience. I just found out that Lisboa is an hour earlier than Spain, but here we go. So, as Barbara says, I am an action-oriented civic society.
We lost you.
Here.
Okay, you're back.
Yeah, okay. What is this mute thing?
It's because you're connected from two accounts at the same time, I think.
I don't think so. Like this?
No. Okay, try to unmute just one of your accounts because I think you're connected with two, Roberto. I will unmute you. Let's see if it works.
Like this?
Yes.
No. Okay, mute me on that one.
Okay. Now please unmute yourself on the other one.
Like this?
Yeah, it's better.
Can you listen?
Yeah,
no.
But still there is feedback.
Hold on.
Okay, I'm very sorry for this. We have tried before with Roberto's connection, but now it's not working. Let's see. Roberto?
Can you listen to me?
Yes. Okay, now I think it's better. Try to speak. No. No, not anymore. Okay.
Like this?
Yes.
Can you listen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, now it's okay.
I think I got it. Okay.
Okay.
So, I'm gonna go ahead and you let me know, okay? So basically, as I was saying, I am an action-oriented civil society that had the opportunity to join a program called 2050 Life that is aligned to the 2050 Millennial Report, the predecessor of the SDGs, let's say. And it was founded by someone that worked with the Nobel Prize, Wangari Maathai, and he was a little bit concerned about all of this bureaucracy in a way that the big institutions deals with until they actually engage in action. So he wanted to create an alternative program that he was basically bringing people who think outside of the box and can bring new approaches, innovative approaches to solutions, and also how to engage with the civic society, because I think that the biggest challenge that we had is to really bring to really bring the society to put pressure on the government and actually have public policy moving. Anyway, so this was in Spain, and suddenly we were exploring different programs. We met the Amazon Challenge and we met the Coral Reef Challenges. And this was a great opportunity because suddenly it became a personal matter because I am from Mexico, and in the Mexican Caribbean, we have the second largest coral reef in the world. Unfortunately, there is very, very, very little awareness on the civic society in terms not only of of the jewel that we have, but also what will be the consequences of it. And we're talking about people who live in the Caribbean who doesn't really have a clue of it. So the first stage of my program was to find a way to communicate with a high impact, and that's when we met um, virtual reality. And when I first saw it, I totally fell in love. I thought that it would be the best tool for education. And since that day, we've been doing so many things, you know, for the first time. But I'm gonna move ahead. I'm gonna focus on what is happening with VR. So the project is not only about virtual reality. Actually, we started with big data. That was the first technology that we implement. But definitely virtual reality was the eye catch, and it provided us with a powerful tool to bring people to places where pretty much, you know, only very privileged people can access to. So, but we have other kinds of technologies as well and methodologies. So we go from strategic liaison, social innovation, art and culture, social conscious activator, soft power social change. We are starting with blockchain, satellite monitoring, and developing a smart risk technology, and a lot of collaboration with to generate law, empower the law, let's say, to have civic participation to move the public policies of Mexico. So for those who doesn't know about social innovation, it's just try to make things better in society and find new ways to move society um, into a good place, no? And we need a lot of that in Latin America. I mean, we have a very strong inequality crisis, and we have some of the most valuable resources on the planet. So, you know, for me, it was also a discovery to find out all of that, and really the big data tool was the first one who made a difference because it allowed us to map everything and everyone and start to get a whole bunch of information, not only on the science side, but also on the public policy side and also on the funding side. And by now we are members of the International Oceanographic Data and Information Exchange, and we partner also with fundingtheocean.org for transparency and other issues. So this is how we decided to begin. We wanted to target the millennial generation, and we found that music is what brings all of the young people, I mean, in the internet, on their Facebook, the social medias, and all that. There's like two main favorite, you know, like that everybody likes is football and music. So everywhere in the world where there is an electronic music, wherever there's internet, there's electronic music, and electronic music is a young industry that it was so easy to detect and check who's the key stakeholders. And we started with a little test in Sonar Festival in 2015, and we decided to target the festivals around the globe to address this information and you know, bring awareness to the people. So this was the first try that we did, and it was very nice to engage people who never been underwater and explain them what was going on with this experience. But it truly didn't. We didn't found that the best result that we were expecting, at least, because people were very distracted. So we decided to go into a different strategy, and we did what is called digital gap reduction. We took virtual reality in the very early stages and took it to rural schools on the Mayan Riviera, where they have never seen a content on this format, where they have never had access to a virtual reality device when it was brand new. Actually, I brought it from Europe to Mexico, so nobody was using it. I had the opportunity to be the first one to start to use this. And these kids that you see on the screen, they're born and raised, I mean, in the Mayan Riviera, they're on Paul Bosch and some other places, but they actually never had access to being underwater on a reef. And the response were amazing. I mean, when you really let a child or actually anyone who has a first encounter with these kinds of technologies, it's super impressive, and people really remember that first content that they saw. So this was a game changer, I will say, when we realized that we can influence a new generation into these kinds of topics, and this was the best tool to do it. And of course, you know, right after the experience, they had tons of questions to the teachers, and everybody was like amazed by how curious they were about this topic like never before, thanks to this tool. So this took us into a very interesting journey that, you know, even they invite us to the United Nations, because by that time we were already implementing big data and virtual reality, you know, as part of the program. This is something that this project evolved from social innovation and communication to actually have restoration program. So it's very interesting because for me, all of the people that I know, they come from a very solid environmental background, and they, you know, I come from a social and communication background, and this connects in a way, in a beautiful, you know, this connects in a beautiful way. But you know, suddenly you have something that starts as a movement and as an awareness program that, because of the limitations of my own country, basically had to evolve into an actual program of restoration. So these kinds of issues pretty much put us on the map, and we got like even like public recognition for using an emerging technology towards the restoration of the underwater ecosystem of Mexico. And as I said to you, like people really don't know in Mexico, even we have 56% of the Mexican territory is water, and is the second largest coral reef in the world. We have an amazing phytoplankton, I don't know, vortex or area region in the Baja California, in the Sea of Cortez. It was named the Aquarium of the World by Jacques Cousteau. But even though basically all the interaction that people have with the ocean in Mexico is like depredation, you know, just take as much as they can, and they don't really understand the consequences. So right now we're partnering with many content developers to create an educational platform, but something just happened in Mexico that we are moving into certification of like proper training on virtual reality, also on these kinds of formats, so we can go from edutainment to really education. So this is what is being evolving. And we implement an awareness campaign that, of course, virtual reality and augmented reality was an important, it was the differential, but we had to go through the traditional scopes, basically. And we found that there was a very strong artistic community willing to participate, and the virtual reality pretty much opens all the conversations that we had, and through that we inform of the severity of why it's so important to take care of this, and then we engage people in action. So we had presence in all the airports of Mexico, thanks to a partnership with the Ministry of Environmental Issues. We had access to the ferries and some spots on the cruise ships lines in the Caribbean as well. And, you know, some support from the taxi drivers that let us put in the bags of the taxis. Quintana Roo is a trend topic destination. Cancun, Tulum, Playa del Carmen. So the first thing you see and the last thing you see is a taxi driver. So we pretty much touch everyone who was on the streets, and of course on the hotels. of course, a lot of public media. We've been in newspapers and in the internet and TV. And this was a very strong combination to have an actual mural program, because unfortunately with virtual reality you can only touch so many people because it's a personal experience. Um, it depends on what kind of people you present the topic with, the impact that you're going to generate after that. But in Mexico, we took these murals to places where they didn't even have an ocean. Why? Because if the common Mexican never has the opportunity to go to dive into this paradise because it's so expensive and it's pretty much something that tourism can do. So then we are just protecting tourism sources, and that's not the point. So how to have people fall in love with their ocean? So we took this effort, and and then we hit the streets. And the combination of these two elements provide an open window of opportunity on the last election of the Quintana Roo state, when we proposed one initiative called One Vote, One Coral. That is actually a replica from One Vote, One Tree that happened in Spain with Zapatero, and they did the Green Corridor of Spain, the reforested or something. Like it was a program. We took that reference and we pretty much took the opportunity. And the governor, the one who won the election, he closed his, let's say, his promotion, his campaign, through this commitment. And this was a beautiful thing, because even that we don't have the responsibility of planting this coral, what happened is that we provide the sensation of having the public consent and the collective agreement that coral restoration was super important for Quintana Roo. And the candidate, in order to gain some votes, and understanding that it's a lot of people who depend on the health of the reef and all the explanation that we provide, he saw this as an opportunity, and through this unfold the state program of coral reef restoration and an extra injection of budget to the Mexican Institute of Fishery and the National Commission of Protected Areas, who are the two authorities who are responsible to plant 260,000 coral colonies, which is equivalent of 6,240,000 coral units. And well, basically, there's never been a commitment like this, and it's like the Mexican record of planting coral, even that we are not planting the coral, but we soft power this phenomenon. And what happened next, it was unbelievable. We didn't even expect it, but other municipal presidents, mayors, basically, they start to get on the same track. And suddenly it was like Puerto Morelos, Quintana Roo also commits to plant another amount of coral, and then the guys in Cozumel another amount of coral. And this unfold on the participation of different actors, like there's Oceanus, another NGO that is also planting coral, and the government. I mean, they all got like some money to operate. And once we did that, we took it to the Congress. We went to the Senate, and with the support of the Secretary of the Commission of Environment, that is also a senator from the state of Quintana Roo, we had the opportunity to present a forum over there, and we had basically what is called in Mexico a point of agreement, in which the legislative power exhorts the executive power to incentivize coral restoration, incentivize the participation of civil society, and to implement innovation, technology, and other kinds of things. So that was pretty much the how we begin to play. We were one of the early adopters of the virtual reality. By now, most of the NGOs are using VR here in Mexico to promote their efforts. There's still there's the need to close that loop because there's still a lot of potential that is wasted, that is not really oriented into action. But we're getting there. But I believe that what has been happening in terms of accelerating the restoration agenda of the coral reefs in the state of Quintana Roo, having also the opportunity to engage with the legislative power and to empower the collaboration between civil society and the government and include innovation is, just by that is remarkable. But this whole phenomenon, took us to a very different journey. Suddenly we were on the need to think on how can we, once we engage the people, because once they saw the VR, they wanted to participate. So we found out that there was not a way to have tourism participate on restoration. So we had to develop. And we came with this sustainability model that we pretty much have provided to as an open source to the local communities of Quintana Roo, in which you have underwater farms that you can do fragmentation over there, and you can have the tourism go to plant one coral. We don't sell the coral. What we sell is the activity to plant the coral, and we can engage with fishermen and people from the local communities over there. And there's also this technology that we really like called BioRock, because you can do beautiful things. Virgin Island and Richard Branson make like an amazing octopus hooked in a ship that it was sinked. Microsoft Minecraft built one in our site. That was a beautiful thing that happened, and you can Minecraft and support coral restoration through a game. And we generate in this area enough coral that we later provide to the authorities to plant it on the natural protected areas. All of this happens in high traffic areas where there is no real where there is no coral reef. This has become in a scientific playground and a place where it contains tourism, but by the time they get into the natural protected areas, they already have all the information, and they're big fans, and they want to be part of the restoration. So this is how it looks. This is an underwater farm. As you can tell, there's like this family over here. They're like, cleaning the coral farms. And we had this partnership with the University of Quintana Roo and the Mexican Institute of Fishery, which is the academic arm of the Ministry of Environmental Issues. And this is how like fully grown BioRock technology looks like. And as you can see, people can just take a snorkel and participate on it. What we want is volume in this matter, have as many tourists as can be who can plant coral. But we needed to add some innovation on top of that. And this came in such a fun part, and we actually developed a visualization in virtual reality as well. So first we did an awareness content that it was designed to inspire people to engage in action. And then we start to use it as a system of advanced visualization, so we can start pitching projects and innovating on this. And then we found that we can even go, more into emergent technology, and there's energy available and all that. And then we met microfragmentation, and that was just amazing, because suddenly a coral that takes so long to grow, you can speed up the growth to 40 times or 50 times. So in 3 months period, you can have sexually mature coral that can be suitable for reproduction in the spawning season. And then you're getting into the right numbers. Otherwise, it's not really, the effect that you can generate is very little. Coral takes too long to actually grow. So we partner with the authorities, and we learned that when someone from the private sector wants to approach to the authorities, they have this cognitive conditioning, let's say, and they start to negotiate. Or when the NGOs are also interacting with the authorities or with the private sector, there's also like they're supposed to be playing in different teams or something like that. But as civic society, you were like just a group of people concerned about that, but we showcase a lot of presence, and that took us to basically be the ones who tied with the private sector and with the public sector. And suddenly we start to think about like how can we monitor better. So we start to look at the sky, and we request to NOAA to have a partnership with the Mexican Space Agency. That just the fact that it was a civic society that incentivized the collaboration between NOAA and the Mexican Space Agency was amazing, no? And these kinds of effort took us so many places. It was crazy. Suddenly we were invited to have a little Burning Man participation on the Day of the Deads, and we talk about coral reef, and we met with all of the big names on the oceans agenda, and they endorsed the project. Like suddenly it turned into basically like a trend to move away this technology from just entertainment that is basically doomed to become that because of the laws of market or whatever, but really putting the eye on using it for education. So that was the journey that took us into the that unleash from virtual reality implementation. And I just want to say that what we really learned on this matter is that virtual reality gives you the opportunity to bring people from curiosity to interest, and from interest to desire, and from desire from curiosity to interest, from interest to desire, and from desire to action. And the action was in this matter restore coral, but it can be anything you want. Right now we're working also with the jaguar in Mexico by protecting the jaguar to protect a whole lot of the biodiversity. And it just took us into a journey that we were very ahead of what it was going on Mexico. This is the where we have our minimum viable product, let's say, the market-based solution. And this was in 2016. It was finally released, the evaluation of the ecosystem services. So people didn't even have the figures to really recognize the value of these ecosystems. Nevertheless, was the #1 cruise ship destination. 100% of the economic activity is generated around the coral reefs, and from 3 to 5 million tourists every season, come over. So the potential was in front of us, to pave the way for restoration tourism, and it was not, used. It was just waste. So we run some numbers, and we know that this is feasible to have a very strong, independent, source of financement for restoration if we really allowed the participation of tourism in this region. So this model, unfortunately, like we were aiming to grow it in Cancun, Macumal, Puerto Morelos, Tulum, and Mahahual, but then we got some bad news about what is called the white syndrome, and I would like to expand on that topic. But I would like to take a break now.
Exactly. Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much, Roberto.
Yeah. Because now we're going to talk about what is happening right now in the Mexican Caribbean and why, even that this is amazing, we kind of jump like not on time, let's say, because a bacteria suddenly appear, and this pretty much changed the whole landscape, and planting coral is no longer an option because everything that you're planting now is just dying because we lost the water quality of the region, because a new bacteria is there and is propagating, and this is a completely game changer. And we are right now on a wider strategy with the federal government, with the state government, with all the NGOs, with all the universities all together, trying to save just the coral genome of Mexico.
But let me mute you for a while because we are listening the lady. Okay, better, I think, for all of us. It's like we are in an airport with Roberto. Roberto, thank you very much for the explanation. Before we move to the white syndrome, which is really interesting, and I think the majority of our participants are not really aware of what's going on underwater. I would just like to open it up for discussion and ask if some of our participants today has a question to make you about the virtual reality and the social and community involvement project. So please let me know if you would like to make any question, just raise your hand. And meanwhile, it's really amazing how this became a movement, such a world movement. I don't know if any of our participants have heard about Restore Coral before. Maybe that's also an interesting question to all of you. And does anyone have any question to make to Roberto? Okay, I have a question, Roberto. My question is, before we go to the white syndrome, my question is about the new educational development that Mexico did. So can you just highlight or tell us about what happened briefly a month ago, I guess, with the approval of environmental education in the school systems in Mexico? Oh. Roberto, are you still there? Hopefully we didn't. Yeah.
Can you listen to me there? Yes? Okay. So yes, I am gonna share another screen and show you what happened over there. Share screen and right, white syndrome.
And we are already over time, Roberto, so you need to explain us really, really briefly, okay?
Okay. So this is what happened, okay? I'm gonna just share my screen here. So what you see right now is the official information, the official presentation that all of the people who were called to participate, and we're talking about the Mexican Dream Team of Coral Restoration, like all the main universities who are engaged in this, the Global Environmental Fund, the UNDP, everyone. So this is official communication from Dr. Lorenzo Alvarez Philippe. You know, I'm gonna save the basically the stuff, but this is the phenomenon. This is the white syndrome. And I want you to see this graphic because what is showcasing here is that in a period of 40 days, we can totally lose one brain coral. This brain coral takes like about 50, 60 years to grow. And we're not talking about the bleaching effect. This is a bacteria. So this is in the whole Caribbean. What it shows in here in the red is very severe. Okay, so it's not only in Mexico, it's happening all over the Caribbean. And as you can see, it comes from the north because this is the less contaminated area. The inside of the island of Cozumel is also protected, so it's more present on the outside. But the official information is that in 6 months, 30% of the coral has gone, which means that in 6 more months, we will lose another 60%. And if you add the bleaching effect and the stress of the warm current that stays in June and May, so we're going to have a whole lot of more coral just gone. And this plays in a very complicated scenario. The efforts. So what happens in here is that these corals, it takes hundreds of years, some of them, to grow, and they're the ones who are really containing the soft coral and the coral that basically protects the shore from hurricanes, a storm, and the coast erosion. So it was already very bad. I mean, the drop down of coral since the 70s, as you can see, by 2002, it was like 70%, it was already gone. But now in only a few months, we have the equivalent of this loss. So it's really bad. So there's a whole bunch of things together. The sargassum is one of it. Sargassum is exploding in the region due to the activity of agriculture and farming and ranching in the U.S. That all of the chemistry that in which they treat their animals and their farms and their fields, it just washes through the Mississippi, hits the Gulf of Mexico, and comes down into the Caribbean. As I said, it's not only Mexico who's dealing with this. So there's a whole lot of value on this area. You know, the coast erosion itself is just, this is the before and after. So this is pretty much what it looks when you have a solid coral barrier, and this is what happens when you don't have it. So, you know, what we're expecting right now is a very strong crisis in the Caribbean, not only on an environmental level, but also on an economical level, and also on a health, on a sanitary level. So the authorities have put together, you know, everybody who's doing something over there to try to gain support. You know, unfortunately, we have a very close public policy of the new government. To be honest, you know, the Mexican authorities don't even have the permits to go out of the country right now. Like, you need a special permit from the president. So that's, again, when civic society can fill the gaps and, you know, intervene by making alliance with international actors. And that's exactly what we're doing. So this is kind of the work that is being done. The monitoring, of course, and this part is oscillating. This is like a, I don't know, like a 200-year-old coral, okay? And what they're doing is oscillating the disease from the healthy part to stop it, and then they put antibiotics. And of course, now is the genetic banks as I said, we don't have the capacity to really rescue all the coral. So what we're doing now is activating the genetic banks. That there's one system in Mexico, and that's what is the main agenda right now. So, you know, the rest, you know, well, alliance with the public sector and all of that, but that's it. So this is what has been happening on Mexico.
And meanwhile, a commission, an emergency commission was set up, right? With all the NGOs and the government authorities and universities. Correct, Roberto? Roberto is gone again. Well, Roberto, before you go, there is only one question.
Sure.
Yeah. And Restore Coral is among those organizations, correct?
Yes.
There is just one more question from Thomas. He speaks about speeding up the process as you described. Do you think this could increase the chances to adaptation, speeding up the reproduction?
Yes. Well, it was very funny, like ironic or synchronicity. I always say that this project has its own force because truly there's a lot that we didn't plan it. Mm-hmm. And I highly encourage to the community to take some risk, specifically on fun creative ways to approach to society, because I hope that what is going on in Mexico, it teaches the world, because what we are facing is a 2030 scenario in the 2020. Okay, so it's not, originally we were like, okay, you know, the coral are going to start to bleach and it's going to take this amount of time, but then a bacteria, okay? So I was, you know, kind of thinking on what it will be the next step for the project, to really have an horizon in which we can have an influence. Okay. And I met the guy from the Human Genome Project. Like, you know, they basically run the DNA sequence of the human beings. And there's a lot of controversy on that because they claim that they have the capacity to grow humans in labs, right? So of course that has a very complicated, you know, points of view and to move forward. But what about endangered species? So I approached to him with this, you know, question, and he totally started to open my horizon. And there's also there's already a program of genome to save all the endangered species. So that's where my research started to go into coral genomics. And I met the lead researcher from Mexico. And when we started a conversation, she was like super happy to meet someone who's actually, you know, giving value to this research, you know, because there, as I said, there's a digital gap in Mexico, you know, and I'm sure in all Latin America and in Africa, you know, and in Asia, where the big natural resources are, you know. So if innovation doesn't meet this region, you know, we won't really found a sustainable future. So what I'm trying to say is that we met right before this crisis. Well, before we were informed of the crisis. So right at the presentation, at the workshop, at the high-level workshop with all the authorities and everyone, you know, we had the opportunity to share with everyone that we have this capacity in Mexico, that we can create a genetic bank of Mexican coral and make sure that when we recover the, you know, the water quality, because that is the real challenge. It's not about, the challenge is not plant more coral, you know. Planting coral is being proved a success in regions like in Southeast Asia is very common at the program. So So we know it's a success. But what happens when the water quality is not good anymore? So what is happening is that the natural habitat of the coral is gone. So the only feasible scenario on this issue is to grow it outside of the water. And when this coral genomics program meets Dr. David Vaughan's innovation called microfragmentation, that is by generating stress on the coral, you speed the growth of it. And I'm sure other species can relate to this kind of phenomenon. You know, you just make sure you cut it on, like in you know, I mean, I'm sure that it's like, for example, when you want to make a plant grow faster, you need to take care of the trims and cut it. So it's kind of the same, but underwater. And then we met this other innovation, two coral technologies that can speed up the growth and give also that support to the coral. And when we recuperate the water quality, that, to be honest, I mean, how can you recuperate the water quality of the top destination of Mexico, 15 million tourists every season?
Maybe we need to work more on community engagement and raising awareness.
Yes.
Right? Okay, Roberto, we need to.
But Barbara, the thing is, it just grows so fast.
Yeah.
There is no capacity for the government to actually provide the necessary infrastructure for reducing this impact. And if you add to the temperature rising, what we're facing right now on this August, okay, when it's the spawning season, when it's the sexual reproduction cycle that only reproduces once a year in the second full moon of August, okay? Mm-hmm. And worldwide, sexual reproduction capacity has dropped down 89% of the coral. So that means that we might be facing the last sexual reproduction cycle of the Mayan Reef this August. And I hope you understand what that means.
We do, and we don't have the answers either, unfortunately. But hopefully next year you will be invited for another webinar with us, and the story will be different. Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Okay, well, Roberto, we are half an hour almost, 15 minutes over schedule, and we really need to close. I just want to thank you very, very much for joining us, even in the mess of all your traveling across the world. So thank you very much, Roberto, for taking the time to join us. Thank you also, Patrick, very much for explaining and introducing us Explorer Land. And meanwhile, just briefly resuming, Patrick showed us the forest and gave us a new eyes to look over land, while with Roberto we traveled deep under the water and understood some of the problems that exist there. At the same time, we looked at the tools and new technologies and how these two entrepreneurs are using new tools to convey new messages and interact with people. So in one hand, Patrick can give you a very good option and platform to better communicate your conservation efforts. And on the other hand, Roberto gave you, for sure, very good ideas involving heart and community on how to raise awareness and to bring those special places that we cannot visit, how to make them visible to the community. So thank you very much for joining us once more. You will receive an email with the recordings of this webinar and also the presentations of today. And I hope to see you again in September, because during July and August, we'll have a short break with our webinars. Okay, thank you very much once more. I wish you all a very pleasant evening and a very nice weekend. Goodbye.